So what we're going to do is story time. I'm going to give the message in a form of a story, an anecdote, for entertainment purposes only. I am aware of one of the many latest plots and schemes, which is entrapment, attempting to get me, as well as you collective, caught up in something via your speaking out, up for yourself, trying to get you in some way, shape, form, or fashion in some kind of trouble for it. That is a classic abuser's move. Distortion, obstruction of justice, manipulating judicial systems and laws and things like that when someone knows that they have nefarious dealings and an attempt to cover it up by trying to highlight and find some type of a violation on the persons in which they have violated. That is old classic move. There's nothing new about it. It's one of the oldest criminal moves there is. Okay, if you have resources, knowledge about these things, but you yourself are a criminal, and if a person decides to speak out about the conduct and behavior, you attempt to prompt, test them, bait them, trigger them into some type of reaction. If not reaction, just even them speaking up about it, getting upset about it, expressing their emotion about it, then there's an attempt to try to go legal. Classic move. So, with that being said, for entertainment purposes only, these are stories that you can draw symbolism, lessons from if you choose to, if it suits you, if it fits you, if you feel like you can take some kind of life lesson and apply it for yourself. So these are anecdotes, parables, okay? So with that being said, again, on the collective scale, you see the title, Story Time. It says perverse witches or warlocks added. So a classic story of how these types of energies might go about things is when they are watching your every move, when they have people assigned in your immediate environment to watch your every move and they are reporting amongst one another. So if you, the target, or whoever you're thinking about, they're watching your move. Now, if your child or the person, the other person in which they're targeting is inside the dwelling, and if that person is compromised, like an elderly person, we're just going to, remember these are parables, stories, symbolism. And if it happens to be happening in your life, well, now you have something to apply it, play with it, help you to process. So whether it's an elderly person that you care for, somebody that's sick, a child, a teenager, a disabled person, where their energy is already compromised, which is a part of why they tend to be targeted populations to begin with. Okay? They're targeted for various reasons, just like you're targeted for various reasons. Some of the reasons in which they're targeted is sometimes maybe connected, could be connected to you, some type of a vengeance against you. Um, in some cases, it's the energy that they can get from that being, or whatever the case. The title says perverse. The reason why it says perverse is for that reason, because being a witch or a warlock in itself does not make it perverse. It's the energy that's operating which determines if it's perverse. what they're doing, who they're doing it to, and why they're doing it, which determines the perversion. If these energies are compromised, which makes them what? They're more controllable, huh? They're easier to puppeteer, huh? Most of humanity is. Even the ones that think they're in control, they're under a spell and just don't know it. They don't know they're acolyte. They don't know that they're in a nunch. They just think they're in love. They just think that they're just loyal. They have no reason. They have no knowledge as to why they're loyal to somebody that's clearly an abuser. They think it's love. They think it's Bonnie and Clyde. They think it's we are family. I got all of my sisters and brothers with me. They think it's no, they're under spell. Now, as they watch your moves, these are people that have already been doing energy harvesting on you since you were a child. This could be families and cults that, unbeknownst to you, these could be sub people. Because, sometimes this thing morphs into subcategories and groups, but it could have all origined with cults that have been siphoning your energy since you were a child. And they did stuff with your children since they were a child. That was stay. But here's what they do. They know that as long as you're around, it's a conditioning tactic. And I'm gonna give you all what you can play with it and see how it's fitting for you if it fits at all. If it doesn't, guess what? It's okay. And I'm only talking to my legit viewers out there have judgment on my stalkers that come into my social media on a nasty shit. So there's going to be penalties executed for every last one of them. Doing spells when I go online using electronic weaponry, the airwaves, and anything else will suffer. Now, I am addressing, I am addressing, that's all their handiwork. That's all their handiwork, but I don't want to get off track here. So, yeah, they scared. I get it. This is happening. They started it. We're finishing. Now, they know that when you're on the premises with that target, that you're going to be too tuned in. You're going to be watching their mannerisms and behaviors. You're going to sense when someone's playing in their energy and you're going to wreck shot over a whole lot of shit. They know that. So they'll start to wait for those cues. So this is how people are going to figure out that it happens in the dwelling spot. Because a lot of folks don't want to accept and believe that that's where the bulk of a lot of shit happens, because that's where the targets are most vulnerable and that's where they spend most time. So that's where most of the shit is happening. It spreads via the connections amongst the city or community and so forth. But the gist of it, the main players are on the property. They have the access. They have the more readily available visuals than the others. So they sent communication. She outside. He outside. They're walking around the parking lot. They walked up toward the front. That's what they do. Then the pervert the then the perverted witches and warlocks, wizards and sorcerers then start to play puppeteer on that compromised person, that their energy is compromised. They're like a child. So they've been doing sex rituals, right, on these populations. I'm going to do segments about some of the stuff they do because it's been revealed. And I'm going to share pictures and illustrations. They started it. So they'll make the person go to sleep because when you're asleep, you can do stuff to people's subconscious and they're easily manipulated and you're more susceptible. So a person that's already susceptible becomes even more susceptible. We're susceptible when we're asleep. So imagine someone that's elderly, that maybe are sick in the elderly, the old, uh, as well as the differently able community. Imagine even how much more so are they. And this is when they do those weird sex fantasy shit. Hmm. Get them to go to sleep, get them to wiggle, get them to, they do weird shit with their candles, their dolls, uh-huh, astral projecting, all sorts of weird shit. Yeah, these are people that most of the world and society hold in high honor. I have to say that because that's the way it goes for entertainment purposes. And if this happened to apply, then it applies. That's how this goes. Most of these people have double, triple, quadruple lives. In other words, they wear many masks. It depends on what group they're trying to fit in at any given moment. If it's around a bunch of traditional Christians who are not knowledgeable, that people are, that are not a part of the Christian sector that knows about it, because there's a part of the Christian sector that do another video, but that are not a part of that stuff, and they're not into that. They don't know. For that group, they wear a uniform of, they basically mimic that group, acting like they don't know nothing about nothing, like they ain't got no code knowledge, like they ain't been a part of no code, like they don't know nothing about no practices or nothing, playing dumb as fuck. Mm-hmm. Because they attack him because I speak the truth. Hmm. This is supposed to condition. These are all covert tactics. So, going outside, doing what you've done in that exampleship, and discovering, let's say you walk back in, the bedroom door is closed and locked. You're like, what are you doing? And yeah, that's supposed to condition you to every time you go outside or every time this, I'm going to do a ritual. Yeah, and every time they do a ritual, somebody else is going to pay for it in a circle. It's another form of, it's passive aggressive bullying. It's also to try to make you stay inside. Because see, if a part of the whole thing is making you centralized, then they need to punish you. They need to make you afraid to be outside. And if they see that you are not afraid of being outside when they can't circle you around 1,000 times, acting like they're looking for something. They can't, all their little tactics that they've been doing to tag, all the shit that they've been doing. Oh, I'm gonna come out with a cigarette and see. Just all this dumb shit. If that's no longer working, these intimidation tactics, these scarcity tactics, then is, well, here's the more covert side of it. Well, you linger outside too long, we're going to do nasty things to your kid that's inside. You walk around outside, minding your business because you should get fresh air like everybody else. And if you want to continue to be able to take care of your family and kid, it'll serve you to take care of yourself. But if you linger outside too long, not looking the way we need you to look. Now, we don't care if you're outside swinging hammers. We don't care if you're outside barking at the sky. We don't we don't care if you're outside undergoing reactive abuse after we done did some foul shit to you. That we like because that we can get on camera and that we can use to our advantage. But if you're just calm and walking and smiling at certain people and minding your business, that doesn't work for us. If you're not following our crew around or following somebody else that we actually sent out there to trigger you so that you could do it. If you're not doing any of those things, this doesn't work for us. So we're gonna send you a energetic message that every time you leave and you're enjoying yourself and you're outside and you're not wilding out, you're not in reactive mode, you don't look like a homeless man or a homeless lady. We're gonna do some nasty things to your children or your loved one that's in there that don't have the same strength that you have or the same wherewithal when once sleep. We don't care that we are ruining our lives. We don't care that it is going to affect our own. We don't care. We have a death wish. We don't care that there's grave consequences for treasonous acts and abusing occult practice and doing nasty, detestable things. We don't care. We've made millions, thousands, hundreds, because these are all different groups, so their category is going to be different. We've lived our lives like this. Ain't nothing happened to us yet, so ain't nothing gonna happen to us now. We don't care. We just want to send the message to make you afraid, to make you feel bad, to make you feel guilty, to make you feel stuck between worlds, damned if you do, damned if you don't, to make you feel like, well, I can't do this, I need to do that, I gotta protect, to keep, yeah, the circus show. Yeah, these types of beings do not have a moral compass, or at least not the moral compass that is relevant, that's real and true and grounded in reality and being applied to all life outside of their clique. Their clique, their family, their church, their organization, their whatever. Because it applies to all of that, but it goes out the window. If they had moral fiber, they wouldn't be touching the elderly and the disabled like that. I don't care if they do some kind of weird fantasy, anime, Pokemon, weird illusionary shit. That doesn't make it better or right. In fact, it highlights the term I used in the title, perverse, because it's to the detriment of these beings. See, the reason, like, oh well, they ain't nothing wrong. What do you mean ain't nothing wrong? They're harnessing and harvesting their energy. They're violating the innocent. What do you mean? I don't care if they go. I don't care. Don't play with me. Don't play with me out here in this universe. Don't do that. It's not gonna end well. Don't play that word salad. I think he's grown. That's when you know. That's how you know you're dealing with some motherfuckers that you're gonna start questioning if this applies, of course. Otherwise, for entertainment purposes, you're gonna question: Are they fuck this? Are they mentally, intellectually impaired? Because what sound intellectually sound and adult mature mind will even think to say something like that if they have full knowledge and understanding about what that implies when they are differently able community and what makes them pure, innocent, and childlike. If they're so fucking brilliant, they're so damn smart and intelligent. How come that's not a natural part of the process when making judgment calls and determinations on whether or not they should do a thing? Because that should be popping up on a in a sound mind. It's gonna pop up. But here's the reality: when you start to realize if this applies to you in some way, you feel like you're living out this parable, and the fact that there are stories out there that are real and true and that these things exist, including these types of cults and covens, what you realize is they're into the sacrifice of children. So if they're into the sacrifice of children, we already have everything we need to know. There's no further investigation required. They're Jezebelian. And I'm not talking about the religification that most of us have been taught in Sunday service. We have our images in view based on those conditionings and programs about what it an energy and a vibration and a parasite in it and a frequency. It's a, okay. Even though it is in the books that they reference, but it's just not. It's not. They don't know how. I'm trying to find the word. They don't know how maybe to apply it outside of churchiness and the things that we equate that to. So we think slut. That's the first thing we. If most of us are honest, that's the first thing we come to mind. Slut, man, slut, woman, slut. That's the first thing most of us will think. Slut, loose, but that's not it. It's actually far more perverse, far more grotesque and insidious. It's the sacrifice of the innocent in the name of someone's personal gain. If you wanted to simplify it instead of all of the complex pieces to it, to simplify it, it's the sacrifice of the innocent, the pure, for one's personal gain. Because that's what the hoe was on up in the scripture. Okay, the hoe was up on. Okay, it wasn't just about her being a harlot. had harlots that had heart of gold in the scripture. Not all of them was trash. That's another video, whole nother day. It's the sacrifice of innocent life. It's the sacrifice of anything and everybody for their own gain. And it's the sacrifice of what they feel threatened by. Because who did they go for in the scriptures? Who did they go after? Oh, I'm gonna let that one go. Because see, I'm not religious any further. But the point that I'm making is it's in a book. Hmm. Who did they go after? Anybody they felt threatened by? Anybody who could see straight through them? Who threatened their authority? Who do they go for? Who do they send their nunches for? They put a zombie spell on that ass, a zombie parasite all up in they get up, all up in their peripheral. It's gone, bitch. It's just gone. There's no strength, whatever. Even the ones that were pure get worn out, and it's because of an entity. It's a parasite that feeds. And this, it really goes over people's heads. You know, the tendency for humans to read a thing and we don't get that we're on the backdrop. In real time, people don't be having all those pieces of things. In real time, shit be looking like the total opposite. They're at it now. They're playing in my energy. They have witches and warlocks that are 24/7, okay, surrounding the target in their dwelling space 24/7. But they look like in real time, they don't have on a name tag. Why do people want that? I don't get it. You're not at the theater where you're sitting back watching a movie and you get all of the backdrop. You don't get the backdrop. You're in the illusion. They're not wearing a name tag. I am the fucked up whole bag witch. I'm the perverted witch in which you are seeking. Here I am. Hello. How you doing? Good to see you. No. Some of them look really puritarian. Like they wouldn't wear nothing, you know, vulgar or provocative. Some, not all of them. Real puritarian. They look like Stuffy Stuffersons from Stuffinsville for some of them. Real professional, straight laced, by the book type. That's a persona. That's a uniform. That's to condition. That's a spell, so that they are associated with such, knowing full well that's not what they are, but so that's what they'll be associated. Why? To do what? To build what? Trust. Yes, the questions of the hours, like how come these people don't have a life outside of trying to take something from these targets? They don't have a life or a meaning to their existence outside of trying to siphon something from somebody else. They don't have, apparently not. I know it doesn't make sense, but apparently not. What else can I say? Because these are the choices that they're all making. So apparently they do not have any other option. Apparently they don't have any other life goals, dreams, and aspirations. Apparently they don't have any other means of whatever they're trying to attain. Apparently they don't. I'm gonna do a teaching, or should I say, I can call this a teaching because this is not gonna be directed at certain individuals per se. So I'll call it that. Dealing with some of the occult stuff that's being revealed to me the way it has had to be because of what they did. But to make clear and plain to the world that a lot of what you think is happenstance was strategic and designed. It is a reason they're trying to hijack the universal codes, the matrix itself. There's even this illusionary, fake, karmic mimicry shit. They're still trying to trick that as well as tricking the higher frequency. And I forget what the terminology is when you're doing location pings and stuff like that. There's, latitude, longitude, latitude, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but the grids and all of that good old stuff. It ain't just the obsession is to do with the proximity is because of what they're trying to hijack. So they want to be above you because they're trying to interfere with the upper chakras, and they're hoping by way of the work that you're doing, they'll have it's almost like a cloaking because of your location. Do you see that? And that the projection of their nasty shit that they're doing to you, and then they can hijack, intercept. That was planned. The barricading type of thing, again, once again, having all of these energies from all directions, but it's also to try to cloak and hide the light, and while simultaneously trying to hijack what's theirs. Now, in our case, in some of you all's cases, this is going sorely wrong for them. Now, there's a reason for that too. But that's a part of why the highlight on dwelling spots and why they appease to so many that are near any dwelling space that has clothes. So that's why they like targets to be impoverished. And when they're not, they have to manufacture it to keep them limited, or at least to make them feel like they are. You want to keep them in, apartments, or basically you're on the same grid. Basically, you're like in a college dorm. You're on the same grid. It's like you're in the same household when you're not in the same household, especially if they're on top of you or below you. Like this, especially the closer. Oh, I'm gonna get into that deeper on another video because I'm sidetracked here. Okay, I'm gonna layer that thing up, and I'm gonna break it down, and then I'm gonna give remedies. That's gonna be a treat. I may say the remedies like as a for the extended donate, blah blah blah, because I'm gonna give remedies. Okay, so what can you do about it? Uh, what can you actually do while still in the situation? What can you do? And yep, there it is. Okay, there it is. No moral compass. These are fake moral beings. who, again, your discretion is advised for entertainment purposes. And if it happens to apply, then it does, and you can apply it accordingly. The fact that these folks could sleep at night, the fact that they go around smiling, partying, doing all the things they're doing, also lets you know that they don't have a moral compass. If they take delight in all this, you'll be seeing weird smirks on people's faces and stuff. It lets you know chances are they're a narcissist. If they're not a narcissist, they're somebody that's fucked up and don't have a moral compass, and they can have all the crosses around their neck. They, like for an example, they get used to getting the reactive abuse. They're hoping that one of these strategies is going to be the one that sticks. So they're always prompting you. They know that when you go inside your house that you're going to see that something is off with the person, that they possibly did something. So they're hoping that you'll make a decision to compromise yourself. They're hoping that you'll get mad, go out and like beat the bejesus out of somebody or tear somebody's shit up. They're hoping that you go and beat on somebody's door so that somebody else can record it. They're hoping you'll go on social media so that they can just so happen to be on there so that they can just so happen to get their corrupt lawyer friend or whoever to say, see, this person is this is character assassination. This person, so they're hoping that you'll go on and start naming, and there, to a degree, there's some things we have a right to say. We do have a right to say something, but being very strategic about it when you know that people are they're just reaching for straws here because they're trying to damage control instead of taking accountability and responsibility for the fact that they got involved with some foul shit and they had foul reasons for it. They're trying to figure out ways to still get you caught up in some kind of trouble. That's another indication of you're not dealing with people either with the full deck of cards or they don't have a real moral compass. Because when you know that you were wrong about participating in something and you regret it, you take responsibility for that and you do not seek to cause any further damage and harm to the person in which you realize you were wrong. So it becomes about it, not them being decent people, them just trying to save their own ass, which that selfishness is what got them involved in the bullshit to begin with, that entitlement and that thirst for vengeance and blood, unnatural passion. In some cases, unjustifiable vengeance and blood is something that they're delusional about. Stay alert. Cyber stalking is what they utilize as well as visual stalking. When you're not online, they're watching your movement. When you're not moving, they're watching your online. When neither of those are happening, they're terrified and they're circling around like madmen and women. They're sending the Walking Dead, the zombies. They, they send And it's a reason for that. We're gonna, but we have a right to tell our story. We're not gonna, don't let them take that from you. Okay? If people don't want to be spoken of, they shouldn't be fucked up. However, we're just gonna get as wise as they are, if not more. I don't even want to say they're wise. They're more so slick and devious and mischievous. Since they like to obstruct justice by way of their knowledge, we're going to use that energy, but in the name of honor and justice. We're not going to be silent, but we will make any alterations just to satisfy this reality if we have to, but to get the message across nonetheless.